Hello and welcome. This is Guy Glidden again, and this is the fourth of 4 screencasts all about Excel skill development. And the purpose of this lesson is twofold. Number one, I'm going to take you through the process of developing a graph. And secondly, I'm going to go through a checklist of things that you should be able to demonstrate when you're testing out of this particular skill or competency. So let's move on with our process. Now, incidentally, this list will be available on the PowerPoint on this process, so you'll have something to check with as you move ahead. Let's return to the Excel file. And in order to start the process quickly, I have already set up a pivot table drop-box menu. You should be able to do that by now. If not, we need to be talking. And over here on this side is the menu. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to quickly set up a pivot table for some data that I want to make a graph of. And first of all, I want to take the performance categories by number, and I want to change that from sum to count, because basically what I'm doing is I'm going to create a frequency distribution of this information. So this just tells me a count, and if I take performance and I drop it down here, and you've seen this before, this tells me that in whatever these performance categories mean, 1 through 5, that I have a number of people in each of those categories. Now I'm going to do something a little different here, and I'll show you how easy it is. I'm going to take this information and I'm going to take it from a vertical presentation to a horizontal presentation. And the reason I want to do that is that I want to show this information for a group of categories, and this would be race code. So I'm going to drop race code down here, and basically what this tells me that is for each of these identified race codes, this is the number of students in each of these achievement categories for this particular achievement measure. And this is pretty similar to what we've been doing in Kansas and under No Child Left Behind for about the last 10 or 12 years. We simply identify proficiency levels and identify the number of percent, and that's what you're going to find if you go on the KSDE report card website for your school. Now, to make a graph, because that's what I want to do, first of all, I'm going to make a copy. You're familiar with that. I'm going to move this down here a little bit here so that we can move it down here. I'm going to go down here and I'm going to do a paste special. There's a reason for that. I'm going to show you that in a minute. And here, let's move this all down and move the whole down on the page, because here's where you are. Here's what I've done. And the reason I use paste special to start a graph process is twofold. Now, incidentally, you could make a graph of information that's still in a pivot table format. Here's something you can't do. I can go in and edit the headers after I've taken it from the pivot table. I don't need the word grand total. I'll just use the word total. Likewise, these number categories don't mean anything to an insider, so let's just say that we know that 1 is non-satisfactory, and we know that 5 is advanced, and we know that 3 is proficient, and we know that 2 is kind of like a basic level, and number 4 is, let's just call that high performance. Doesn't matter what we call them. Performance categories are all basically what you want to call them, and so I can edit that after I have removed it from the pivot table with the use of paste special. So now, in order to make my graph, I'm going to do one simple thing I would recommend you do, because it'll make something show up here. If I simply go up here, put my cursor on the word race, which is kind of at the pivotal between you can see that's kind of the focal pivot on the graph of the information, and I delete that, and then if I highlight the information that I want to make a graph of, starting with the blank thing, okay, and then with this information, we're going to go up to the top because you want to see this. The graph making function is all under the word insert. So we go to insert. Now let's suppose that I want to make a column graph. So let's go see, and let's put that down, and let's see what that looks like. And lo and behold, sorry about that, guys, here's what a column graph looks like on that. You'll notice it picked up quite a bit of information here. Now, in terms of actually creating a graph from the data, I'm done right now. Obviously, I want to make it look a little nicer, and there are several things that I can do to help that process. For example, one way, Excel has made some nice packages. So here, let's look at this in terms of a chart layout format. And notice when I do that, it actually formats the information in a way that would make it a little more helpful. Now, that's not the end of the process. I've got several other options I could go in to try that out. For example, sorry about that. I got to go back up here. And columns, 3D. Okay, sometimes you do this and you lose the, okay, so we got the, okay, but here I've got the graph and the process here. So here would be some of my chart possibilities. Okay, and I've done that. So I could go back up here and under design, I could go, and this design was the icon I'm looking, under chart, when I have it on the chart, if I go to design, here's another option I could do that, and here's another way I could, in other words, a prepackaged format. It has several of those. Or I could go up here under the word layout, and you'll notice it allows me to custom design that. So I could go in and I could put a chart title. And it tells me, no, I don't want to display. I want to display it above the chart. So basically what I'm telling you is, I'm going to take a long time here. If you remember these two locations, once you have the chart located, if you go to layout, this gives you some opportunities to do this. Design and layout would be the two words you probably want to remember after you've created the chart. So basically, but in essence, this is what the chart looks like. And let's move it down a little bit here, because I want you to show the comparison here. And it's taken me a little bit of time to edge this down. Okay, so you can see that in juxtaposition here. That's what the data looked like that we started from. And you'll see it even tells me where the data is coming from. That's what the chart looks like that was created by that data that I had. Now, obviously, by going up and being patient and by going into the design and the layout icons at the top, you could do a lot of things. For example, you'll see this one has the number of cases identified for each case. Now, maybe you don't want that information. All of this in the design and making it look nice is simply a judgment call on your part. So this is basically the process. We've taken the whole thing from start to finish. We've gone from some simple uses to some complex uses of the process. So let's go back, and I want to do one thing here, and let's go back here. These are the things we said we're going to do. So let's go back and very quickly do, so you'll remember what those processes are. And this will not be a very complete process. I won't be able to go into each of this all, but at least you'll know where we located. Remember sort and filter. We started out on day one by looking at the process, and sort and filter can be located and are found up here under the data icon on the data sheet. Filter looks like a filter, and sort is a process. Sort's pretty easy to remember. Sort simply means that when I hit the sort function, it tells me how do I want to change the organization of the pattern, so that I can identify any of the column headers up here, and I can sort it from largest to greatest. I can either way by the process of doing this. Let's cancel that out. We're not going to take that. That's pretty simple. Filter, you'll know the filter is there when the little filter pull-down menus appear at the top of the rows. So that's the process there. We went from there to looking at the function wizard. And remember, function wizard basically has 4 functions that we did. So let's go down at the bottom. One of them, and they're all identified here as recent here. We did an average, and I'll just demonstrate one of these. And remember that when we do the function, that the region Excel even suggests a group of cells or go to values for the average. Remember that the rule of thumb is always carefully edit that. So if I do that and go down to the bottom, or pull that up so you can see it, it'd be easier. There's my average here. So let's just demonstrate these going along. Under this column, let's demonstrate a median. Same process. It comes up with an idea. Now remember, these aren't the same thing we have down below here. So that's a mean. That's a median. Okay, let's go under this one and let's demonstrate a standard deviation. And again, we're going to say, okay, same thing. It's pretty sure it wants me to do it. So we've done that by, so here's a standard deviation. And then finally, let's do a demonstration on this column of a Pearson product moment correlation, which we simply do by going in and hitting the OK button. Now remember, we have to do something there, so we're just going to say J2 colon J101 and K2 colon K101, and immediately this is a Pearson, which is basically a correlation coefficient, and it's going to compare these two columns right here, J and K. So that was a bit of the process we used on that. That's the function wizard. From there we went on quickly to, and I'm going to erase this up because otherwise I'll screw up the next step here quickly. And the next thing we did very quickly is we went up to the top of the process and we went to insert, and we created a pivot table. And again, remember, if you have a new version of Excel, that table range is probably going to be automatic, but you're going to proof that every time, and if it doesn't look like it's coming out, you can physically change the locations, the number count, or the columns and the row identities up here. If it's not coming out the way you do it, you probably need to check your data to see if your data is in line. And again, pretty much of a simple process there. And by using this, we demonstrated two things very quickly. One that was important was the frequency distribution, which we did by simply doing a count of the value that we wanted to do and then modifying it by itself so that it looks like this. And then finally, going back over here, we use this, and this is really the big part of the process here of Excel and pivot table, is it's going to set up so we can show information for subgroups. This happens to be number of people of each racial category by gender in each of these categories, so we can see what we have here in terms of the distribution of people in the process. This is what pivot table really does well, and that's kind of a pretty good review of what, if you can do all of those things and you're comfortable. And then finally, the thing we just demonstrated today, you're going to use this information to create a graph, remembering the difference between the paste and paste special functions. That should get you in pretty good shape. Thank you.